Good morning.
Morning.
Lower my voice. Oh my God. Welcome. Is your hand up? Do you need a handout? Yep, we see you. We'll bring some stuff back. I'll introduce myself. I'm going to kick off today. My name is Nina Harris. I am the school's Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs. Welcome to our GA-TA training. You have about 2.5 hours with us. I'm going to kick off with some administrative work before we do two other parts of our day. You're going to hear from our Title IX folks. And for those of you who are TAing, you're staying to do some ELMS Canvas training as well. So you got an action-packed morning. You have a couple of handouts that you received. The first one that I'm going to go over, and this is just to kind of make sure that you see the things that are most important in the contract. And this is the one that's called Graduate Assistant Appointment Template. So that document you actually received, I signed it, you signed it. This is your binding contract with us. Some of you are new, some of you are returning. For those of you who are returning, you saw this last year. And the reason why we decided to talk about this and the Statement of Mutual Expectation, which is the second document, is because each year we have some issues that come up. And they're mostly between the graduate assistants, whether you're a research assistant, graduate assistant, or a teaching assistant, and your supervisor. You all have a supervisor. So I just wanted to make sure that you were all clear about the expectations that we have of you and the expectations that you should have of us and of your supervisor, because it goes both ways, right? So what I did is I kind of highlighted just a few things that I wanted to go over to make sure that you know. I know you started technically August 17th, but really yesterday as far as your assistantship. So I hope you have all been in touch with your supervisors, even starting the conversation about what you'll be doing and the Statement of Mutual Expectation. Your work appointments are 9.5 months, and they actually go all the way until May 31st. Some of you might have some different arrangements. Some of you might even have 2 assistantships. So just kind of be mindful of that. This is just very general. We put in here that first and foremost, you guys are graduate students. We know that, we recognize that, and I don't think you'll hear from anyone today who hasn't been a graduate student. So we know what it's like. I actually did things a little differently. I did not stop working to go to grad school, so I was never a graduate assistant. I worked full time as I collected my 2 graduate degrees, but I know what it's like to balance work and school. So we want you to know that we are prioritizing your education, and you should too. So no matter what kind of comes up on this journey, please always remember to focus on your education. We take this seriously, and we encourage you to prioritize this. We'll get to that Statement of Mutual Expectations next, but just so you'll know, it says in here, any GA who experiences an issue related to workload, meaning you might be feeling like you're doing too much, consult with 2 people, your supervisor, and you also have an academic advisor as graduate students. They're not your primary point of contact, but they're a resource. We have mandatory advising each semester for our grad students. So you have touch points with Ms. Pickett. Please, if you have an issue, don't keep it to yourself. And most of all, don't just talk to each other about it, because you're all probably having very different experiences as graduate students and as graduate assistants. So get some advice from Ms. Pickett, and also talk to your supervisor, whether it's a faculty member or a staff member. We're all here to support you, and we kind of understand that something is going on. So if you have something, there's links in your contract. It talks to you about, there is a formal grievance process. If you feel like your supervisor is, and this is air quotes, abusing you, there's a process, and that process is actually not even managed by us, it's managed by the graduate school. So it's a serious process in place. If you have a grievance, don't feel like you have to take something and not do something about it. And that goes both ways. There's actually grievances that go out for our graduate assistants and grievances that come from our faculty and staff who might be managing you all. So that process is all formal. We've had some issues over the years. We try to mitigate them as soon as possible. If your supervisor has an issue with you, it typically isn't about the quality of work, really. It's about, oh my God, I got too busy and I can't do this TA-ship or GA-ship or RA-ship. anymore, or I only feel like I can put in 5 hours and I can't put in the 10 hours that I signed this contract and said I can do. Usually, if any issues come up, it's about timing, not so much about the quality of work. So kind of getting that settled in a timely manner. TAs, you have a contract that says you need to show up to class. And things that have happened over the years that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned today, because these are probably some of the biggest issues we've had. We get through about 3 months of the year and you're doing really well, you're connecting to people in Washington, D.C., you might even have an internship and they offer you a full-time job. You want to take that full-time job, right? That full-time job might require you not to be here on campus during the day. That's a problem because you signed a contract, you made an agreement, and that agreement said, I agree to attend these classes that I might be a TA for or meet with someone. TAs are harder to be flexible. If you have a graduate assistantship or a research assistantship, you might be able to be more flexible, meet with your supervisor and alter your hours. But if you have a TA-ship, that becomes difficult. So be mindful of those opportunities. I'm not saying don't take those opportunities because you might want to jumpstart your career, especially some of you who have never worked full-time before, or financially, you might need to work full-time. That's a reality. And if that happens, understand that you signed this contract and this contract says I'm going to be here, so there's consequences to breaking that contract. And I don't want you to be surprised by that. It's all detailed in the letters. There's links in your letter that kind of point to the graduate school's policies, but know that what you're doing is you're jeopardizing your assistantship based on performance. And we don't want that to happen because you're getting tuition remission, you're getting a salary. There's all kinds of benefits that go along with it. And sometimes in the moment, our students aren't thinking about that. They're not thinking about what they have to lose by taking this part-time job, right? So if you get presented with an opportunity, I would encourage you to sit down with your supervisor and say, look, this has come up. Can we work this out? Because I really want to take this opportunity. Don't just ghost them. And that's what happens sometimes. And it usually happens because students aren't comfortable talking to their supervisors about this opportunity. They don't know how to mitigate that relationship. So again, use your academic advisor. Melissa is floating around here somewhere as the director of the graduate program. You have Beatrice, who you all have had engagements with. Talk to them before you actually make a decision to start not showing up for your assistantship, so you don't have to suffer the consequences that might be irreversible. And also, if that happens, you'll be owing the university money. That's the worst thing. Imagine cutting a check to the University of Maryland that you did not expect to do. You don't want to do that, so kind of avoid that at all costs. Any questions so far about your contract? It sounds really bad and scary. I'm sorry to start your morning that way. But I wanted to make sure that you had a dose of reality. Like, this is real life. Like, graduate school is jumpstarting your professional career. And for those of you who are entering year 2, something in your mind might be saying, oh yeah, I knew that, I heard that. And again, don't be advised by each other. Come to some of the faculty or staff that are in your orbit. Any questions about your contract, your letter, before we move to the statement of mutual expectation? Are you all clear on what you signed up for? We're all clear that this is a job. This is a real job. I'd say use this as an opportunity. Like, I'm still writing letters of recommendations for students who served as my GAs and TAs, and I do a pretty good letter. Like, so look at this as you're working to make sure that you get the best possible letter of recommendation from your supervisor and from us as possible. And you're not going to do that if you're not doing the job. And again, it's not about the quality of work. It's about time. It's about things that happen at the end of the semester when things get busy for you and you start disappearing. Think about a faculty member. That's their busiest time, and that's when they need you the most. So it's almost as if these dichotomies are up against each other, but that is the time when you're the busiest and they need you the most. So figure out a way to kind of negotiate that process. All right, so that leads us to our second document, which is the statement of mutual expectation. Has anyone done their SME with their supervisor yet for this year? A couple of you brave souls. Okay. I would encourage you to do this as soon as possible. It's definitely not a formal contract. It says here it's just more of a structured conversation. Make sure you meet. Try your best to, if you can't meet in person, definitely meet in Zoom. Don't try to just do this electronically. Like, build that rapport and that relationship with your supervisor. This is a time where you kind of state your needs and they state their needs. And it could be that since I said what I said a couple minutes ago about the end of the semester, you might try to negotiate that up front if you're a teaching assistant or even a research assistant and say, by the end of November after Thanksgiving, if I front load some of my hours, can I fall back a little bit because I know this is going to happen? And they might say, okay, I can give you some work to do. But have that conversation. Know that that could be a possibility. You have to negotiate that with your supervisor. So these few bullets, I'll just go through. Responsibilities of the assistants. Discuss your strengths and challenges. Like, we all have them. There's some things that I know I'm not good at and that I don't want to do and I don't want to learn. What are those things? What are those things that might be packed in your job description that aren't your strengths? Talk about those things with your supervisor and then highlight the things that you're really good at, because it could be some things that they're not aware of that you want to highlight. Your supervisors have a responsibility to you too. It's okay to need some kind of training or development. If you see something, don't pretend that you know how to do something. This is like job 101. Don't pretend you, same thing with your assistantship. Say, I don't know how to do this. I need more training. Or if you're, first of all, not sufficiently getting what you need from the ELMS training today, say, I need more of this. Don't fake it until you make it. That's not good. As far as scheduling, this is something that comes up from time to time where we have supervisors who will be up at midnight emailing their graduate assistantship students. And it's not that they want you to respond right then, it's just that's when they had time to send it. But the students are receiving that as, well, they're emailing me all times of day and night and asking me to do stuff. You don't have to do anything unless it's within your hours of work. Set those hours up early, whether they're in-person hours. And most people now do a hybrid. Some of my hours are in person and some of my hours will be online, or I'm just available. Whatever those hours are, you can hold those boundaries with your supervisor, but be clear about that. Now, you might develop a rapport with them where you say, well, I'm cool with them and I'm okay doing this. It doesn't bother me, but establish that. But know that if you're establishing that, that's going to become an expectation, right? So if you're up for the first 3 months and you're responding to them at midnight, they're going to start expecting you to respond at midnight, right? So that is within your control. But again, talk about that response times. Again, you might need to change your hours. Always sit back down with this document, the statement of mutual expectations, and renegotiate that time with your supervisor. That is definitely important. Review all policies and procedures, best practices, especially for your TAs. You'll hear about that for those of you who are TAs later today. Even those of you who are research assistants and administrative assistants, there's protocols about how you engage with faculty, engage with students. There's some information on here about dress codes. Find out if your office has a dress code. How do you want to show up? And for me, I always want to show up like I'm on a job interview, right? So if you're running from class and you typically dress casual, if these are days you're going to be in the office, you might think about that. And if you don't want to make that adjustment, just ask your supervisor, do we have a dress code? Is there a way that you prefer me to dress when I come to class? Like, these are things that you just need to talk about out loud and kind of codify them before you both sign this. Every place has an organizational culture, and you want to kind of work within that organizational culture. Any questions so far? Okay. One of the last links on here has a lot of information going about resolving conflicts and the grievance process. Again, I don't want to focus you on the grievances, but know what those things are. Take some time to just kind of click on the links in both of these documents. Know your rights and know the rights of faculty members. And again, say something, don't hold these things. I've met with graduate assistants who end up in my office and they've had an issue brewing with their supervisor for about 6 months and no one ever said anything, right? So if something is not feeling right, find someone that you can come talk to me anytime, even if I have no working relationship with you. I'm fine to have those conversations because I'd rather figure out what we need to do to have a great mutual relationship. And the thing that I don't want you guys doing is to spend your time and energy on grievance processes or having an issue with your supervisor or having an issue with your assistantships. You are here to learn, to make us proud, go out in the world, get jobs. So let's figure out how to make this process very smooth so it doesn't become something you can't handle. I see a hand in the back from Professor Johnson Cooper. Yes, you raise your hand. One of the potential supervisors is in the back of the room. Okay, so no questions. So I won't see any of you with any GA issues this year. All right, thank you very much. If there's any questions that come up, again, ask anytime, for real. Thank you.
everybody. I'm Lori Gainey. You've probably been corresponding with me about your GA ship. I'm the one who puts your payroll into the system. I'm also here with my colleague, Surreal. And actually, you've probably been emailing with her more over the summer than me because I'm trying to get faculty on board as well. So most of the answers can be answered by myself or Surreal. So I just want to go over this little cheat sheet that you have in front of you. But Nina said something that's really important, that I think is really important going forward. She said something about like no two GAs are alike. So I want you to remember this, that no two GAs are alike. You have different situations. You get your paperwork in at a different time. If you're an international student and you're both from the same country, does not mean that you're going to get the same emails at the same time, the benefits at the same time. Just remember that it's apples and oranges. There's no two people that are alike, because somebody will come up and say, oh, they got their email about their benefits and I haven't heard yet, and they're from Nebraska and so am I. I'm like, it doesn't make a difference. So I just want you to know that just come to me if you have questions. So if I have everything in the system for your appointments, and I think that most of you have gotten back to us with the information we have asked. Your appointments are in the system and you're going to be paid your stipend. You'll have your first stipend on August 30th. So you haven't even really worked, a week or so and you'll get your first paycheck. I want you to remember that you're working for the state. You're a state of Maryland employee. And so your paycheck is issued by the state. It comes out of Annapolis. And they do all state employees. So they have thousands of people that they're inputting into the system. I can just imagine a couple of people sitting there doing data entry, trying to get your paperwork in. If you've done your direct deposit paperwork, and we'll go over that in a few minutes. If you've done direct deposit, it takes several pay periods for your direct deposit to hit. So don't expect to wake up on August 30th and look in your checking account and see your money there. But you will always get paid. You will have a paper check, and you'll come pick up that paper check. I will send out instructions. It'll be in this building. You'll pick it up that Friday or the following week. It doesn't matter, when. You'll have all that information. But it takes a while to get the direct deposit, and there's no way for us to track it because thousands of employees are trying to get their paperwork in as well. So let's talk about direct deposit real quick. Some of you have already filled out the form. Some of you have not. That is one of the only payroll form that has to be done online. You cannot hand in a paper direct deposit. They will not accept it. So do me a favor before we even go further. Everybody take a picture. If you have not handed in your payroll paperwork, take a picture of this, okay? On the direct deposit form that you're going to do online, and you should have the links. And if you don't, please just email me, mention it to me today. I will send you the link. Yes?
If this is your second year having a GA, we don't need to do this, right? Or do we still need?
You don't need to do it if you had a continuing appointment, meaning if I didn't terminate you, like if you knew you were coming back in May or June, then you don't need to do this again. But if we didn't know, and there are people that we didn't know, you terminated in June, you'd have to do new paperwork, okay? Yes?
If you worked for the university in a different capacity and are continuing that job and they direct deposit stuff for you and they will continue to, do you have to fill it out again?
You do not. If you have another position on campus and you've been there and it doesn't matter if it's a GA ship or an hourly position and you're there and you're current, you do not need to, thank you, you do not need to fill out that paperwork. So take this. I just want you to notice that the routing number that everybody knows is a routing number. They've changed the the verbiage. And they put bank number, and nobody knows what a bank number is. It's your routing number. I don't know why they did it, but it's the state. So, and then you need an agency code. Again, you cannot write that in. It has to be typed in, and the agency name is UMCP. If you put University of Maryland, okay, but I would just do that because then they know it's College Park. I'm not going to say it's going to be returned if you put University of Maryland because I think some people have, but that's the best way. Any questions about that, about direct deposit? So for your GA stipend, you're always going to get paid. So if you had an hourly position on campus, because I know a lot of you don't, you only get paid for those hours that you actually put a timesheet in, right, for the hourly position. For a GA ship, you will get paid no matter what. As long as you're doing your job, you're going to get the same stipend every 2 weeks. So if you're out sick for a week, you're still going to get that stipend. And there is no timesheet that you have to keep. We used to get this question all the time. For a GA ship, if your supervisor wants you to keep a timesheet between the two of you, that's fine. I think actually that's a good idea sometimes, just to kind of keep track. But I do not need a timesheet. I don't want a timesheet, and you don't need a timesheet to get paid in the system. Okay? Next important thing is benefits. I know a lot of you have reached out to me about benefits. So within, I would say these first 2 weeks, you're going to get an email from the state of Maryland. It actually comes from Shared Services. It doesn't really look like, I don't get the email, so I really don't know what it looks like, but it doesn't, a lot of people delete it. Okay, a lot of people don't know what it is, Shared Services, they delete it, or it might go to your spam. But that's the email. If you want benefits, that's the email that you're looking for. And it comes from a feed from your GA appointment in our payroll system to the state. It's not something that I can push through, that I have any control. So whenever this feed is sent to the state, you're going to get an email that says, welcome, you are now eligible to apply for benefits. You have a new job event, a new life event, new job event, something like that. You might not be ready to make those elections right then. You might be, on the train, or you might be somewhere, and you just can't make those elections right then. But please, when you get that email, log in and create an account. You don't have, that day you don't have to do anything else, but if you don't create an account within like 24 to 48, it might just be 24 hours, the link expires and you have to get another link. You don't have to wait the 2 weeks, but why not? If you get the link, please create an account. Then you're gonna go in and you have 60 days from August 11th, 60 days. So August 11th is a weird date for you guys. I know that, but that's the date that we use for payroll. You're like, oh, it's August 20th and I'm here, or August 17th, or August 11th. So on October 11th, you may or may not be able to choose, I don't know how the 60 days fall, but you might not be able to choose your healthcare. So try to do it as soon as you can. You'll choose your healthcare. You have any questions about that, reach out to me. I really can't advise you. We're not supposed to, but I can try to guide you to what I think you might want. Your benefits will be effective September 1st. So even if you choose your benefits on August 30th or August 31st, they are effective the first day of the following month. Okay, so September 1st. Let's say you have to go to the doctor's on September 2nd. You don't have your cards. There's no way you'll have your cards. They can look you up, keep your receipts, and you will be reimbursed for that if you don't have, your information. Also, the healthcare is taken out of your paycheck. I always forget to tell people that. It's automatically deducted from your pay. And it is also the same healthcare that I use, that anybody here on staff uses. It's awesome. I'm not going to tell you not to enroll in SHIP. If you want to enroll in the student healthcare, that's up to you. I think that ours is much better. And speaking of ship, you might have all seen a charge on your bill for ship. It's like $1,000 or some dollars. I'm not sure. Please waive that if you're going to use our insurance. There's a link, and I can find the link and send it to you, but you want to go in and have them remove that from your bill because you're going to enroll in healthcare, okay? That just started a couple years ago where they automatically bill you. Yes?
Yes, but to waive the ship, you need to upload your current insurance card back and
I
forth.
think that, so did you try to waive it?
Yes, I go inside the portal and they
Yeah.
need to upload all this.
So let me take a look at that because somebody just last night actually told me there's a way for people who don't have their information yet, because you don't have your information. There's something like you can pass a bypass or something. So let me take a look and I'll send an email out to everybody about that. Yeah.
I have the same question.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned that last night and I'll take a look at that. Okay. Let me see what else. International students. If you haven't already created a Glacier profile, email me. You might, I just had somebody yesterday who hadn't had their Glacier profile created. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email me and I will send you the link and I will reach out to the non-resident alien manager on campus and get you into the Glacier system. What else? Okay, identifying documents. This is one of the last things. Identifying documents. If you still need to give me a copy, if you sent it already, don't worry about this. But if we have not communicated about an identifying document, so that's either your passport. So if you have your passport, that trumps everything. I just need your passport. If you don't have a passport, social security card and a driver's license, or a driver's license and a birth certificate. So something with the picture, right? And then something without the picture. I need those. So I'm going to be here all day today. If you have them with you, you can take them out now. We can take them, we can go make copies, and then I will find you in your next, I'll come down here or lunch or whatever, and I will return them like within the hour. So don't worry about that, okay? So if you have identifying documents with you that I need, Surreal can come around and collect them from you, and we'll bring them back. Yes?
Same thing with the direct deposit.
Yeah, if
If you already did this for the previous year and you didn't have a termination.
No. So if you've had an appointment and you're just picking up your fall, you do not need to do any of this. I'm so sorry. I don't even think about that.
Are we required to be on the University of State of Maryland healthcare, or can we waive both of those if we are already insured?
Yes, you do not. You are not required to be on healthcare. I think that you would, if you were like on your parents or something, you would have to probably upload something about this for the waiver. But you do not have to accept one of ours. Yes. Oh.
How do we know if we've been terminated or not? Because like I had one in the spring, but I'm back, like I don't know if I have to do it.
What's your name?
Megan Condon.
Oh,
I
okay.
was gonna say, there's definitely other people.
I think I'll take a look when I get back to my desk. So I'm in, write this down as well, I'm sorry. I'm in 3222. 3222. Thurgood Marshall. Oh, it's on the bottom of the sheet. Thank you. And for paperwork that you need to drop off, if I'm not there, my doors, you cannot slide paperwork under it any longer. There's a lockbox next to my office. Please put your paperwork in that lockbox, and I will email you when I open up that lockbox and tell you that I've received your paperwork. Yes?
We've already submitted like our passport online on the I-9 form. Do you need to? Okay.
No.
I didn't get any confirmation or anything of it, but
So when I might not have completed your section 2, so when I go in today, that's like one of the things after orientation, I need to go in and like do all of those. I will let you know that it's done, okay? Any other questions? Yes.
If you have another qualifying life event, like sometime now, when the assistantship ends, will it automatically send you another eligibility email?
Well, a qualifying life event would be like if you turn 26, that's a qualifying life event. And no, that's not gonna, you're gonna get something that you're gonna, like if you're on somebody else's insurance, or you're talking about if you're on our insurance?
You're on someone else's insurance, like if you're on your parents' insurance, and then you turn 26.
Right.
Will they automatically send you a link to join the university?
No, I don't think that they do. And this is like a very, this is a hard, it works, right? But it's just like timing situations. So I would say start the process, meaning get the paperwork. Like, let's say you are on whatever insurance and you're 25 and 3/4 or something. Get all the insurance that you have from that other company, right? Like, so if you have, you're only going to be able to pick up in your new insurance what you actually had. Okay, so you need to start getting paperwork ready like 2 months or so, 3 months before you actually turn 26. Okay, and then we'll start, like I did this with a couple of people last year. It's a process. I'm just, like I help you through it, but it takes a while. Don't wait until the week before your birthday. Okay, and just make sure you have this company, they had to send several different things saying what this person was enrolled in. And they had to get it from like the parents or whatever. It was just, it takes a long time. Yes. There should be so I will send another email today with all the links for the payroll paperwork if you don't have it. But in some of the emails that maybe you received, there should be links. But if you're, I will send out a mass email to all the GAs because it's like a state website and then you have to drill down to get the direct deposit form. Okay. Yes.
so the form I got offline, but do we have to submit it online?
So the direct deposit, thank you. So you fill it all out online except for your signature. You have to print it and then sign it with wet ink. So every payroll paperwork has to have an original signature, a wet signature, right? It's the only part of the direct deposit that you cannot fill out online. If you guys don't have access to the printer, come see me and I will print them for you.
But after that, then we can mail that form?
Yes, you can mail it to so there's an address at the bottom of the form. You can mail all your forms there. You can bring it to me. You can put it in my mailbox, in my lockbox. Because it had your social on it, so not my regular outside mailbox. Yes. Okay, what's your name? I'm sorry? Geraldine Guzman. Okay, yeah, you're in the system. I'm sorry, like it just... yeah, and if you think that if you know that you've sent me paperwork and you haven't heard back, there's a lot. So just come see me today. I'll be happy to look you up while you're in my office. Yes.
Follow up on the passport. So if we upload it to
I'm fine with that. Okay. International paperwork, just FYI, I need your I-94, your I-20, and your passport. Is that it? I-90, I-20, I-94, and passport. Yeah.
If you're a returning student, do you need to bring it again?
No, I don't think you will have to until 2025. Like new paperwork for the next year. Okay. But if you have any questions about that, like if you're a returner, just come see me like today if you get a chance. 3222.
3222.
My office.
You like
Yeah. Okay. anybody has any other questions, just come here, yell them out before I go. Oh.
I only waived the UMD student health insurance. Do we also need to waive the SPP health?
No. It used to be that you did. I would, if you're not going to take our health insurance, I would still go in and create an account. Just because you never know. And it's just good to have that account. If you don't have that account, if you don't do it within like 24 hours, the link goes away and it becomes more of a hardship. Okay. Anything else? Yes. If you need to if you need to change your direct deposit, you can do that on POSC. No. I think we have to fill out new paper. Oh, that's only, yeah. You have to fill out new paperwork. Yeah. And I'm glad you asked that. Never, ever. People do this all the time. And it's not just student. Everybody does this. If you're changing your bank, don't close your old bank account until you see the money in your new account. I mean, that's happened so many times. They close it, they open a new one, and that direct deposit is floating around because the state tried to deposit into this one. This one's closed. This one is just, maybe something was wrong. Just don't close this one until you actually see your first paycheck or whatever money in that new account. Because I can't do anything about that. Yes.
If I don't do direct deposit and I want to pick up a paper check, where?
Okay, so on Fridays, so you'll get an email from me that you have a paper check on payday Fridays. So your first payday is when? August 30th, okay. Every 2 Fridays after that, you will get paid, except like Thanksgiving, you're gonna get paid on the Wednesday. So anytime that we're closed on the Friday, you typically will get paid the day before or 2 days. Now, if you don't do direct deposit, you're going to get an email from me on Friday morning saying, hey, you have a paycheck to be picked up. And in that email will be specifics. It will be where you pick it up. It will be in this building. Right now, it's with Becky on the first floor, but I don't know that that's going to be the case on August 30th, like if Becky's out and I have the checks or whatever. So wait, it's always going to be in this building, and it's going to be that Friday and then the whole following week. As far as hours, wait for the email, because Becky has like specific hours. If she didn't, she'd never be able to get up from her desk because people would be coming all day. If I have the checks, which I really am not supposed to have the checks because of my role, but I'm going to take the checks just so you guys can get them. I'll be in my office all day, and I'll say, just come pick up your check between 9 and 5. So just wait for that August 30th. Most of you will have paper checks, unless, of course, you had a position.
Becky's desk is located on this floor in the suite closest to the chapel in that main area. Her name's Rebecca Winnicky.
Yeah.
I will send an email with this checklist, with instructions.
Every Friday morning
Yeah.
of payday Friday.
There's another question in the chat. International documents, DS 2019 instead of.
Yes, for J1. Sorry. I'm so used to international students having the F1 visa. So yes, David, you're right. Anything else? Okay, so just come stop by, see me in 3222, and I'm in, at least 3 days a week. Oh, so if you need payroll paperwork, you don't have it, or you forgot it, or whatever, look here when you're leaving. Federal paperwork. Anybody lives in DC? Anybody Maryland or Virginia? Just take one of each that you need. And then I'll be in my office all day today. So if you need help, again, I'm not allowed to help with the IRS questions, but I can just kind of guide you. Yes.
Sorry, just one more question. So for direct deposit, you can do it all online. You mentioned something about printing something.
Good. Yeah. So and do it in black ink. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Do your paperwork in black ink. If you've already sent it in and it's in blue, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But going forward, try to do it in black. The payroll paper, the direct deposit, does need to be signed with a pen, not digitally. It's just weird. I mean, I think that somebody during the pandemic, a lot of people were probably filling out their direct deposit with handwriting. They could not read the routing number or the bank number or whatever, and people were not getting paid correctly. They were not getting their money. So then it was during the pandemic when the state said that form must be done online. So you can print it out, don't sign it, print it out, sign it with a pen, and then bring it to me or mail it to the address at the bottom of the form. And I'll submit it for you if you bring it.
When you say online, you just mean like in a PDF viewer, like on Acrobat, you can type in. Okay, so it's not actually an online form, it's actually just typing.
Yeah, it's typing into it.
Just don't, so type it all in.
Yeah. Just
Do
don't sign
not digitally sign it. Type it all in, print it out, and then with black ink only, and write it. You know how to use cursive.
A lot of people have sent me their paper, well, some people in the beginning sent me paperwork thinking that I could print it out and submit that. You can't because that's not an original, that's a copy. But then, I think Surreal came up with the idea of you guys sending me the paperwork for me to check to see that it was okay. And then, you know, it's like some of the fields were incorrect or whatever. If it's okay, then we wrote you back and said, yes, this is fine. And then you would just do the same thing with originals. So if you're having any questions about filling it out, you can send it to me and I'll just write you back. I can't take the forms, but I'll write you back and say, yes, this is filled out correctly. Now do the original. Like I said, we'll be here, we'll be in our offices all day. Okay. And if anybody has visas or paper passports that they want me to take right now to make copies, I'm happy to.
I'm here. I'll collect them on this side. Abroad to travel. Don't tell me. Hang on one second, I'll be right there.
Anybody else?
No, passport. Yeah, you have hold on for that.
No, anybody.
But we don't have to give them because we're already students.
I mean,
Everyone has.
Yeah, no, you're fine. We're all good.
Anyone else on this side? We're all good.
Did you already fill it out? Did it?
Hi, so my name is Beatrice Debelen. I'm the Student Services Coordinator. I handle the GA placement process. So you probably got an email from me with your appointment letter. I sent out a reminder about, so earlier, Dr. Nina Harris talked about doing your statement of mutual expectations. Make sure you meet with your supervisor and complete that. And we're gonna collect that via Google form. So you need to submit your statement of mutual expectations by Monday, September 9, which is schedule adjustment. And if you are a teaching assistant, you'll also need to do your FERPA training and upload your certificate. So I sent an email. So when you meet with your supervisor to do that, you'll fill this out and then at the bottom, If you're a TA, it will then take you to a different section where you can upload your FERPA certificate. Some of you might be graduate assistants, where you're meeting with students. So check in with your supervisor if you need to do your FERPA. And in that case, you would just click graduate TA or email me and I can make a note on the back end because it will only let you upload the FERPA and go to the FERPA part if you're a TA. But yeah, Melissa, is there anything you want? Melissa?
I think there's a question in the chat. I can't figure it out.
Did Lori leave already? What is the expectation? Is Lori still here?
Okay, check out the lobby.
David, can you email Lori that directly? Thank you, David. All right, we have a couple of more minutes before our next session with Title IX. So I was thinking,
Oh, Lori,
here's Lori.
I understand that the email with health insurance options takes some time, but after we select an insurance, what's the expectation to get our policy number and card? Or is there a document that confirms insurance that we can use in case we require medical services?
Yeah, so when you log into your SPS account, when you log into your account, you'll be able to see your information. You're not gonna get, I don't know when you'll get the cards. I mean, it takes a while, but
Keep your receipts, David, so you can get reimbursed.
yeah, you can, also when you elect, there'll be a summary page, like at the end of what your elections are. Take a copy of that page, take a picture. Because I don't know how many times, and myself included, I forget. Just take a picture, and then the state of Maryland, when you finally do get your cards, you will see on the back of your card, we have a dedicated like line, I guess, with the health insurance. So if you call like Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have somebody that specifically works with employees at the University of Maryland, right? So they're very helpful and they'll guide you. But if you just go online, you'll be able to see like your effective dates and all of that. Like I said, I don't know when you'll get your cards. File. Maggie?
If we did the FERPA training last year, do we redo it this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I need to collect your FERPA certificate. Yeah, we need that on file.
At your training. All right, so we have about 5 minutes before our next wonderful presentation. My second years plus. Any tips for our first years in regards to GATARA? Any quick tips? Don't do this, do that. Learn nothing.
I was a TA, and what I would say is like try to set your expectations with your students of when you're going to respond to them. So if they email you 5 minutes before the final exam and say, I have a question, they'll know that they had a week to answer that question to you and they won't be mad at you for it. So I would just say set those expectations up. Hey, if you get an email from me on Saturday, I'm not going to respond to you till Monday. Things like that, just at the beginning, very, very clear, so that way, you know, and don't give them your phone number, whatever you do. Some professors like to give phone numbers. Do not give them their phone number. They
I think
won't
that's
call.
solid. That's solid advice right there. Great advice. Others, like Dr. Harris said, set up your boundaries early on with your students and your supervisor. Other tips, tricks, anything? All right, for the new people, our energy is going to be like way higher tomorrow, so have no fear. My second years are just getting back, so they're a little quiet, but we all know that's not true. So we have about 3 minutes. If you'd like to take a break. There's restrooms straight out of this door, and there's a water fountain down there, and we're gonna get started here in about 2 minutes with our Title IX training, okay? Our information was so good, you had no tips?
Stuff like that's all I would say.
Yeah, you said like, be Melissa's GA, she's
They are the artists.
It's okay because to be honest,
She got it.
I don't watch it.
Maybe you're.
If you need documents, we have them down here.
So like he'll go to the bar.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I think specifically, I didn't bring enough for everybody, but I think specifically TAs, since they're the most, like, I guess more out there with the students, but we have a digital copy that I can drop.
One more announcement, friends. If you submitted any documentation to Lori or myself, such as your passport or your documents like that, she is making copies of them right now. After this session with Title IX, please exit, go to the check-in tables, and pick up your documents. Okay? Only for me.
Oh yeah, so get on.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll take it at the end, and if you want what I typically say, Hi, how are you? Good, good. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. How's your week going? It's only Tuesday, but you know. It really should be Friday.
Did you say you want to like actually? She teaches too.
Yeah. She's really nice.
Oh no, she's great. No, she's great. But like, I can understand why her stuff. So great. Yeah, I was terrified. I mean, he might have remembered my face if I was like, you didn't know who I was.
Probably up for your. Thank you. And then the mic will also get
Can you raise your hand for me if you're a teaching assistant? Okay, I'm gonna go around and pass these out. We didn't bring enough, but we'll send you a digital copy. But I definitely want the TAs to get this form. So keep your hand raised if you're a TA.
And it's at the same time on Monday nights as the section they just had it. she's never taught that course. So he's at least taught the course and so I was like, I'd rather have someone who's taught it authentically that you're gonna know it. Like he was like, I usually reach out to agencies that do this and just like do this and then have to
Would you tell us, like, if it was like,
All right, everyone, I want to gather your attention. We're going to get started with our session. So we just passed out the brochures that I had. My apologies, I did not bring enough for you all, but we will share a digital version and we can always get you more copies. So these hopefully are going to be helpful for you to just have to reference this much later. But I want to introduce myself. So my name is Alejandra Galarce Diaz, but I usually go by Ale. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the training manager for policy and prevention at our Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct. And what I really want to do today is make sure that you all as TAs, GAs, RAs are all aware about what our office does and also the resources on campus for a specific number of you, specifically TAs, and as a GA, if you serve as an advisor or you work really closely overseeing students in your capacity, you will also have a responsibility with our office when it comes to reporting. So I want to talk through that to make sure that you all have that information going into the year. But we're going to get started. Thank you, Beatrice. So before we do get started, I do want to give a content warning for the reason that all of this content is sensitive in nature. So if you need to take a break, take it. You will get this content later, at any point. You'll get the slides, so you will be able to access this information. But for right now, if you need to take a break now, please take it. We will be taking attendance at the end. Basically, that attendance is for us to have, so then if ever in the future you need to kind of show to anybody that you did this training, we'll be able to do that. So make sure that you are registering and signing in at the end. But we're gonna get started. So I wanna go over our policies first to give you some context. So a little bit about background of our office. So the Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct, we are often referred to as the Title IX office, and that will make more sense in a second when I explain it. But what I need you to know about our office is that we oversee all of our non-discrimination policies on campus. That means all reports of discrimination and harassment that include sexual harassment and misconduct can go through our office, and we provide resources as well as the options for resolution processes through the office. And we'll talk briefly about those today, but if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. We are also working to make sure that folks have access to supportive measures, which are accommodations, and I'll go over those, especially too, in a teaching assistantship position. You might have a situation where we reach out to your professor and you to help us better support an individual in your class, perhaps through a supportive measure. So I'll talk through that as well. We're also delivering a lot of education opportunities to make sure that folks are as informed of these policies and resources as possible, and also talking about other types of topics such as boundaries, recognizing healthy signs and relationships, and etc. So we'll talk about that towards the end. But first, how do you even get in contact with us? So anybody can contact us at any moment. They can email us, call us, walk in. We're located in Susquehanna Hall. It's a 10-minute, very nice walk from here. I took it today. But there are reporting forms available. When it comes to contacting us, somebody does not need to just be reporting something to contact us. So if in the future, as a TA, as a GA, as an RA, you come through come with a situation where you're like, I don't know how to navigate this, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you, and it doesn't have to be just reporting something. But you can report at any time. There is no time limit to report sexual harassment to the office. That means somebody can report the day after something occurred if they choose to, or maybe the year after. There's no time limit for that, but we do encourage prompt reporting whenever possible so we can promptly reach out with resources. So background on our policies, we oversee two main policies. So I told you that we oversee our non-discrimination policy. So all of our policies prohibit forms of discrimination. This first one prohibits discrimination and harassment that's on the basis of characteristics and statuses that individuals in our community carry. So you'll see them in the screen here. And discrimination is really defined as the unequal treatment of a person to another based on a characteristic or legally protected class. Harassment, on the other hand, is unwelcome conduct, which could be verbal, could be physical, it could even be online harassment that, again, it's targeting somebody based on a characteristic or status. There's a lot in here, but even some that are not named here could be potentially, a legally protected class, such as discrimination on the basis of language, right? Language can be attached to either national origin or be its own process, such as, English-only policies or et cetera. Those could be discriminatory in nature, so those could be included as well. But that's an overview of our larger non-discrimination policy. The next policy is specifically on sexual harassment. So this is where the Title IX piece comes in. If everybody, if anybody knows Title IX, you probably know that it first started in athletics. It was like making sure, prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sex originally was mainly on gender, making sure that we had similar programs for both women and men in the university. Again, started with sports, but then expanded to make sure, okay, are we admitting similar numbers, or are we giving similar amounts of money or giving similar amounts of opportunities? But within the century that we're on now, the Department of Education has recognized that discrimination on the basis of sex is so much more than just gender discrimination. It's also sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. So that's why we have this policy that prohibits this type of conduct. So sexual harassment and other sexual misconduct is essentially discrimination on the basis of sex, but it comes in as conduct that is unwelcome and in a sexual nature. So for example, we have quid pro quo. That's a form of sexual harassment that could be, it's typically related to a power imbalance between two individuals. So taking a person of authority and somebody under their authority, the person of authority saying, I'm going to give you this benefit or an aid for an exchange of this sexual favor. And utilizing their authority could put the person under their authority in a very difficult situation. That could be a form of sexual harassment. Another form could be hostile environment. Hostile environment, similarly, like I described harassment in the last slide, could be verbal, it could be physical, it could be online. And this is all conduct that creates an environment where it's so hostile and offensive for an individual that maybe their performance will suffer in that particular, right? So we're talking about academics, we're talking about housing, employment, and et cetera, right? So in a classroom setting, if an instructor is utilizing a lot of sexual jokes and sexual innuendos and kind of doing more physical, ways of this is, more sexual in nature, that might create an environment that's hostile for a student in the class. They might drop the class. They might just do really poorly in the class, right? So it's creating an environment that's hostile for someone. Because of time, I'm not going to go over all of them, but if you do have any questions about these, please don't hesitate to ask. But in terms of you recognizing this conduct in your role, or if somebody tells you, if conduct is told to you, you see it, etc., and it's sexual in nature and unwelcome, which it's going to be unwelcome, it's going to probably come in these categories. But it's not up to you, and you don't have to, the onus does not have to be on you to categorize what type of sexual harassment this is. All right, so I want to talk about two particular things that are now related to our policies, retaliation and amnesty. And retaliation is prohibited by all of our policies, meaning any sort of action that is being done and being taken against somebody for the purpose of intervening with their access to this process altogether, whether it is accessing, filing a report, or even accessing even the information, that could be considered retaliation. So taking that scenario that I talked about with the, with an authority member versus someone over their authority, if that authority member is, threatening the person for filing a report or preventing them from filing a report, that could be considered retaliation because they're coming in between their right and access to filing a report. Everybody has the access to, at the very least, file a report and get information about this. The amnesty provision comes in specifically for our sexual harassment policy. And the amnesty provision basically states that if a student, both undergrad and grad, is the complainant, which is a person that is impacted, the impacted party, or a witness, they report conduct that may have involved drugs or alcohol in any way. Maybe it was just they were at a party and there was drug and alcohol, and that violates the policies of the university policies on drug and alcohol. They will not face disciplinary action for that conduct that they, violating those policies. Why? We want to make sure that we are prioritizing that report so that we can reach out to them for support, and we'll not focus on that disciplinary action at all. We will get them support when it comes to if they have potentially a substance abuse problem or et cetera, but they will not face any disciplinary action. So this is important. If you, as a teaching assistant, a GA, et cetera, receive a disclosure from a student that they are fearful of reporting for the reason that alcohol and drugs were involved in some way. It doesn't only have to be them, maybe they were just present, or maybe the respondent in the case, that the person that impacted them was under the influence. It doesn't matter. Disciplinary action will not be put on that individual for reporting. All right, so talking a little bit about your role in this process. We call them responsible university employees, you can feel free, but this is just a fancy way of saying mandated reporter. This is specifically for our sexual harassment and other sexual misconduct policy. We currently don't have any mandates for mandated reporting for other types of discrimination. So if you receive a report on, discrimination on the basis of religion or I'm trying to think of the other ones, age and et cetera. That's not something that you are mandated to report, but we strongly encourage for you to do so, right? The law doesn't tell us, but it's still something that is really critical for us to be able to outreach. So seek guidance from your supervisors or your professors, et cetera, for that. But please know that specifically for any instances of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct, it's really important for you to report it up to our office. And I would say reporting it up to your professor is not enough. Of course, making sure that they are in the know, especially if it's a student in the class, but making sure that that report makes it to us, because we don't want the situation where we've seen this before, not just specifically TAs, but just in general, when somebody reports to their supervisor of something like this, sometimes the lines get blurred in terms of like who is reporting, like who's filing this report. We want to make sure, we prefer in that instance that we receive 2 reports from you and your professor versus 0, right? But in this instance, if you are, become aware of any type of sexual harassment, right? You're told of it, you see it, et cetera, make sure that you report it to our office. There's a couple of other RUEs on campus, but we'll go over some resources for you all for this. All right, so first though, how to report. You can click, I think 2 times here and they'll show, there it is, another time. Perfect. So this specifically, I went over how to report to our office and a little bit about our forms. This is where to get them. So how do you go to our website? You can do UMD OCRSM, UMD Title IX, UMD Civil Rights, et cetera. You're going to get to us. When you get to the office website, you're going to go to file a report, and that's where you're going to access the reporting forms. Specifically, the report for sexual misconduct online is going to ask you a very, very important question. It's going to say, are you a mandated reporter / RUE, and did you notify the individual that you're reporting for that you are filing this report? Why is that so important? We do not want our outreach to be a surprise. We will outreach, we will conduct outreach. We will email them if they prefer us to call them, et cetera, but they will hear from us. So we don't want our outreach to be a surprise. So make sure that you are having those conversations before you are filing this report. All right, so a little bit about responding to a disclosure. So unfortunately, I cannot promise that I'm gonna make this conversation easy. It's gonna be a difficult conversation, but I hope that with what I can offer you today are just some things for you to keep in mind on what to focus on when you are potentially in a position receiving a disclosure from a student. You can click 4 times and they'll show everything. Perfect. All right. So first and foremost, safety. When we receive a report, we focus on safety first and foremost. That means that we are looking at any threats to safety to the individuals involved, to the community, and et cetera. And we are making sure that, everything okay? Okay. We are making sure that individuals involved and the community around them are going to be safe. That means that we recommend for you to do that in your conversations as well. So thinking about, okay, have you felt unsafe in the last couple of days or since this happened? Or have you felt safe walking back home? Or have you felt safe going to class and et cetera? Those are the things that we want to make sure that especially our students are feeling safe and comfortable doing, because they have the right to continue their academics, and we are trying the hardest to be able to give them that, right? So maybe asking that could be helpful. Empowerment also should come in, but this is more of a practice versus kind of a check the box, right? So making sure that they know that the control is on them, right? Even though it may feel like reporting is kind of taking their control from them, we actually give them all of the control when the report is with us, right? Reporting, the only thing that it does is make sure that we are conducting outreach so the onus doesn't have to be on them to have to make that step. Sometimes reporting to our office can be really difficult. So if we can make that a little bit easier by us reaching out and saying, hey, we invite you to come talk to us, please feel free to accept or decline that invitation. They can come to us, right? But that is an invitation. When a report comes into our office, they get invited to come speak with us, but it is not an obligation to come speak with us. So make sure that you are kind of talking through that a little bit. When it comes to thanking them for trusting you, that you might do this naturally, right? So we don't have to go over too much, but please keep in mind that, clearly, if they went to you, they have a trust in the relationship with you, right? So make sure that you are, at the very least, putting that into words. When it comes to explaining your duty to report, I put it third on the list because it's not because it has to be in that order, but because the other things often take a little bit more importance because you're taking care of the individual in this conversation, right? But that isn't to say that the explanation of duty to report has to come last. It should come first if you are able to do so. Why? Again, we want to give them as much of the ability to decide, okay, do I want to disclose? There might be situations, though, that you might receive an email from a student that is disclosing, or we've seen in the past where students take potentially a project, a paper to disclose that something occurred, right? So you might be having this conversation after somebody disclosed, but it can still look the same. Things to focus on when explaining your duty to report is first, letting them know what those limits of confidentiality, of your confidentiality are. So very much outlining, I need to report instances that involve sexual harassment, which could include dating or domestic violence or relationship abuse. It could include stalking. It could include sexual assault, right? Sometimes just saying sexual harassment is not enough because what is that? There's a lot under that umbrella. So making sure that you are outlining that so then they know, okay, what needs to be reported. Second, make sure that you are being more of an active listener here, letting them decide how much or how little they're willing to share with you. You do not have to have the pressure of investigating any conduct. Actually, I would discourage you from asking too many questions because, again, this is going to allow them to tell you what they want to tell you, right? There might be some details where they feel more comfortable keeping to themselves at that moment. If you don't ask, they might not tell you, and that's okay. Whatever you know is what you are reporting. The report is going to ask you for questions such as location, time, date, and et cetera. If you don't have the answer to those questions, don't go getting those answers. You're gonna report exactly what you know, and we'll take it from there. Again, if that person decides that they wanna speak to us, we will ask them those questions much later. But for right now, you focus on caring for them and guiding them to the resource. Third is frame this conversation exactly as what it is. And for us, it's you opening the door for them to get access to this information, right? They might not know about this resource, or they might be fearful of the resource because we can seem like a very, very scary office. So what you are doing, especially by reporting, is there's this door to this office. I'm gonna open it for you. They're gonna reach out to you. You can decide whether you're going to go into that room to talk to them or et cetera, or you can decide to shut that door. You can lock it or you can just close it for now. When they decline the invitation to come speak with us, that is not permanent. That means that if they decide a month later, a year later, they would like to talk to us then, they can do that. And sometimes things get busy for students, right? In a situation where we have midterms and finals, we receive reports and we don't hear from students until after the semester is over because they decided that it was best for them to focus on finishing the semester, and that is okay, right? That's fine. That door, again, is not going to be permanently closed if they decline at first. Okay, so just because of time, what I want to do with you all today is I want to give you some time to read this. So a little bit of context on what this resource is we have created a sample script that hopefully is going to help you get a little bit of background of, okay, how do I begin explaining what my duty to report is. So we talked a little bit about the limits to your confidentiality, what do you have to say, what does it mean to report up, who's gonna know, and etc. So I want you to take a minute to read what we have up here, and then I'm gonna ask if there's any questions about the resource. And then I'm gonna talk about another resource that I recommend for especially TAs that are going to be in the classroom to utilize hopefully earlier in the semester. But take a minute to read the sample script. Okay, I'm not really sure if that was a minute or not, but I'm gonna ask to see if anybody has any questions about this, how to use it, when it's appropriate to use it, just generally. Does anybody have any questions about this resource? Okay. All right. The second resource that I wanted to talk about that you will have access to both through the slides and also online on our page, we have a whole section under resources and infographics where you're going to be able to see a bunch of different resources, including the sample script is the talking points. I don't have it up in the screen today, but basically the talking points, what it's there for is first, it includes syllabus language. So if you have any, form of creation of the syllabus language for your class, I recommend you utilizing that. But also it gives you a couple of bullet points on, okay, if I'm talking about this for 5 minutes with my class on like what my duty to report is at the beginning of the semester, what do I say? What do I highlight? Those bullet points are exactly for that because again, the hope is that the students know way earlier, especially they know around not just that you are a reporting entity, but there's other people on campus that are other reporting entities. So we can give them as much information as possible. So feel free to access those after the session. But we're gonna finalize with supportive measures, feel free. So I talked about supportive measures in the beginning. So something about supportive measures is that they come in right away. As soon as a report comes in, they basically start kicking in. Of course, we need to communicate with the individual to be able to know what their needs are so we can support them, but they can come in really like right away and are not, they're not dependent on whether somebody goes forward with a type of resolution, which could look like an investigation or it could look like an informal resolution. Something about that I want to make very clear is that a report does not equal an investigation. A report is a notification to our office that conduct occurred to a member of our community and we need to conduct outreach. That's what it's there for. An investigation may come later. An investigation may come in if they would like for some type of resolution. But when they meet with us, we go over what their rights are, and one of their rights is to access a complaint which leads to a resolution. But in terms of supportive measures, this could be independent of whether somebody moves forward. And actually, some people might decide, I don't want a resolution at all. Maybe not now, maybe not ever, so I'm not gonna pursue it, but I do need supportive measures so I can continue accessing my education, my housing, whatever it is. These are some examples of what supportive measures could look like, but this is not an exhaustive list. These are meant to be individualized to meet the needs of that particular individual. When it comes to you all as TA specifically, if you're working very closely to support the students in your class, we might reach out to you, maybe, if we're working with a student in your class to let you know this student is working with us. In that email, we're not going to tell you any details of how they're working with us, any details of their report and et cetera, because we're keeping that private. But just alone, we're working with this individual and we would like to approve this supportive measure that they have requested for this class. Can we work together to do that? So in that situation, we will work with you and the professor to make sure that that student has that access. So it could look like a variety of different ways. It could look like if two individuals are in the class that are part of the report and they have asked for a no contact order, that might look like making sure that your professor and you know the students are okay with staying in the same class, but you should not put them together in the same groups. They should not be seated together and et cetera to make sure, right? Some people decide that. It might be that a student really just is struggling with the class. Maybe they need an extension for a deadline, or maybe they need an accommodation to take the final so that they can, still be successful in the class. Whatever it might look like, these are meant to try to help them continue accessing their education and the university. All right, finalizing with some other resources. So Title IX also covers pregnancy and related conditions. That means that discrimination on the basis of sex could also include if individuals that are pregnant, parenting, or have a related condition are experiencing conduct that is unequal to their peers. For example, pregnant and parenting and people that are related in that condition should be allowed to continue accessing their education. That means that if they're not allowed, we can step in. An example of something that occurs that we definitely step in that unfortunately is a little bit more common is when faculty members are requiring for folks that are pregnant or parenting for them to give a doctor's notes for every absence, but not doing the same for everybody else, right? That might be something that is written in the syllabus, but sometimes in practice might not look that way. But if somebody is being required dissimilar to everybody else to do something for their absences, especially as they're related to pregnancy or related condition, that could be considered discriminatory conduct because they're being treated unequally. So that's just an example of something that happens in the classroom, not to scare you, but just something to be aware of. But we do step in those situations, especially to make sure that these folks have access to the resources available for them. When it comes to related conditions, anything related to pregnancy, it could be IVF, it could be termination of pregnancy, it could be conditions that occurred as a result of childbirth, could be breastfeeding, whatever it is, all of that is included here. All right, finalizing with resources, we have these non-confidential resources. I'm just gonna skate over them, but these resources are available on campus. What's important for them is that they do have to report up just like you all. But the next slide is gonna show us the confidential resources, and these folks are completely confidential. That means they receive a report of sexual harassment, they do not have to report it up to our office. For the reason that these processes are here to make sure that folks are able to access this information and their options confidentially. So if you get a situation where a student comes to you, they might tell you something, but then maybe they say, can you keep it private between us before they report? And then you explain your duty to report, as you do. Then they change their mind. Don't let them leave your office hours, etc., without them knowing there's places for them to go to speak confidentially. Walk them here if you would like. We want them to speak to somebody if it's not going to be us. Especially the Counseling Center and the Care to Stop Violence have hotlines throughout the year, so those are really helpful, especially for supporting people after hours. All right, we're gonna skip this. You can just click through it just because of time. But if anybody has any questions about these are really easy. You probably know all of these answers. You can feel free, yeah. All right, but if you have questions about these, actually, can you go back to this slide? There's one that I want to point out, the last one. There's a statement that says, as a graduate student, I am always a responsible university and mandated reporter. That's false, for the reason that you are not only a teaching assistant all of the time or a graduate assistant all of the time. You're also a student. That means when you are in your classroom, you're not a graduate assistant, you're not a teaching assistant. If you oversee individuals as an RA, when you're not an RA, you are not a mandated reporter. But when you have your TA hat, when you have your GA hat, that is when you kick in and are a mandated reporter. So it's really important for you to have that balance, especially you will have, peer relationships outside of your TA roles. But if you're working with individuals, if an individual that sees you as a TA, they are in your class and et cetera, they would count as what you would need to report up. Any questions about that particular part? Okay, your professors are not privy to that balance, right? Your supervisors, et cetera. It's just students specifically because you're not TAs all of the time. But all right. This is specifically like if for any incoming students, but for you all being TAs, we don't really have to go over the training, but if in the future, for your classes or et cetera, you're looking for this information to make it to your students in a form of a workshop or whatever, feel free to reach out. We would be happy to deliver that, especially in a form of just informational session if you would like your students to know about this. But that is just and then ways to get involved. Again, you'll have the slides available, so if you want to access this, you can. But the last slide is going to have some information about our office as well as how to reach me. More importantly, though, please scan the QR code, or if you're in a computer, you can just put that link out there. This is when you check in to let me know I participated, I did this training, and if anybody were to reach out to us, we can confirm, yes, this person was here, they completed the training. So because you sat through it, you listened, please make sure to check in. But in the meantime, feel free to let me know if you have any questions. We are 2 minutes over, so I want to be respectful of time. But any questions as you're registering online? Yeah?
Students' accommodation status protected by Title IX, so if they feel like that is being discriminated against.
Yes. Yeah. So accommodations for disability? Or? Yes. So if somebody feels that they're being unequally treated or their accommodations are not being accepted or et cetera, that would also be a report to our office. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before I go? All right. I'm sure you are all busy registering, but if you do have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You have this information, but thank you, Beatrice, and thank you, Melissa, for making some time. I hope you have a great year, everybody.
So yeah, make sure you scan that QR code or go to the link as you fill that out. Also, if any of you came in, but you didn't step by the check-in table, raise your hand so I can make sure that I have you tracked down for attendance. Is Laura Fairman or Samuel Hickey in the room? Laura? Oh, okay. Laura Fairman or Samuel Hickey? And then, I'll go to you to sign you in, but we're gonna switch after you fill out the form. If you are a teaching assistant, you will stay in this room for the ELMS Canvas training, but if you're a graduate assistant or a research assistant, you can head out, and then tomorrow, if you're an incoming first-year graduate student, is the graduate new student orientation with Melissa in the pink. But yeah, make sure you fill out that form, scan the QR code before you leave, and teaching assistants, you will stay for the ELMS training.